Hi everyone, this is Clara coming to you from North Carolina with Card Stamping with Clara. Hope you've had a great week. I've been enjoying working on this new set called Toile Christmas. But before we get to that, I'd like to remind you that I have a host code that if you should need to purchase something, please use the host code up to $150. But if you spend $150, then you can get like $15 worth of free merchandise. So I don't want you to use it if you should spend that much. The other thing I want to make you aware of is this catalog that I showed you last week is going to be, you're going to be able to order out of this on September the 4th. There's lots of beautiful things in here, lots of Christmassy things, a few fall items. You might find a pumpkin in here and something that can be converted to an apple for a teacher project or what have you. But it's got some really neat ideas. So I wanted to mention that to you. Remember, September the 4th is the day that you can go online and start purchasing things if you don't have a catalog. If you need a catalog, by all means, go to my website, go to Clara's blog. Down at the bottom, you'll see a place where you can contact me and request or make a comment or do whatever. So if you need a catalog and you don't have a demonstrator, please send me an email and I will get one right out to you. Okay, let's get to the project today. It's this Christmas card. It's called Sending Warm Wishes, or Warm Christmas Wishes. And it's done with glimmer paper, sparkle glimmer paper. I hope you can see that. I'm going to try to move it a little bit back and forth. It's got a beautiful cardinal on it. And then on the inside, it says, "May this season be filled with beautiful moments and happy memories for you and those you hold most dear." So this is the card we're making today. I'm going to show you the products that I used, which is the Toile Christmas, like I mentioned a minute ago. It's the one that has this nice sentiment for the inside, and I actually put this sentiment on the inside of all of my cards today. It's got the beautiful cardinal, and it's got a branch of berries and leaves. Then it's got, "May your days be merry and bright," Christmas wishes, a couple of little stamps that you can just stamp swirly things, which you'll be able to see. I used one of those on the card. And "For you with love." Those are the sentiments. It's a nice rubber set, as you can see. So I hope that you find this one to be very beneficial, maybe for other times than Christmas too. You might be able to use this cardinal in other ways. So we'll lay that over. And I'm going to show you the die set that comes as part of a bundle with this. We'll slide this out so you can see it, maybe a little bit better. But in the die set, you get the, you can cut out the cardinal. You can cut out both of those big sentiments. You can cut out some little leaves. And this piece, I think I left a little piece of paper in it there. I didn't realize it, but this is what cuts out your branch with berries and things. And this will cut out a swirly design. I cut one out and I stamped one, so you'll be able to see how nice these are to use. And it's called the Christmas Cardinal Die. But like I said, these go as a bundle, and if you purchase them, they're a little bit less expensive that way. I also use the Sending Warm Christmas Wishes on some of these cards because I found that depending on the place that I place the cardinal, sometimes I needed something a little bit smaller than one of those really big sentiments. So it's just a matter of priority. But you saw me use this stamp set a week ago, which I really do like. And I also used my Layer in Circles framelits. I used 2 of those, and I'll show you how I use those. But this is just a good staple set. So those are the items that I used, and these are the cards that I made out of them. I took that berry design, berry branch design, and I stamped it with all of the stems kind of pointed into a an area, the same area. And then I colored in the berries, and I put this nice layering circle DSP with the garden green in behind it and Christmas wishes across it. So I thought that made a really nice card that didn't have a cardinal on it. This is the one card that I made that didn't have one but had another option. And I also cut out the inside layer here with that little die I was showing you, and then you can see the red shining through, and I thought that added a special touch. So I made this one with no cardinal. This is a little bit like the cardinal that we're doing today, except it's done in red, and it does not have any glimmer paper in behind it. So if you want something that's a little less sparkly, this is a good option. You can use that same cardinal and use this little sentiment. I just put it up higher and use the branch, and as you can see, it's all a matter of spacing it. Inside is the same on this one. This one, I used 2 of the branches and just kind of put them together to help fill up this area. Put one of the sentiments across the top, and I put it on a blue background like you were looking out at the sky, and like on a sunny day or what have you. So this one looks more like a day in the fall versus, or a little later than fall, maybe, just on a sunny day, where the other one with the glimmer paper in behind it looks more like snow to me. So, whoops, somebody forgot to, well, surprise, surprise, Clara. I thought I had done all of these, but I guess I missed one. I'll have to go back and finish that one. But I'll do it the same way. I'll use a piece of the red, put it in, then I'll put a white piece on top, and I'll do the same cutout. But pardon me, I thought I got them all done last night. Okay. Clara does make mistakes, by the way. This one has also got some glimmer paper, and what I did with this one is, I hope you can see it. Sometimes the lighting doesn't do justice to the glimmer paper, but it's really bright and pretty. I cut out, well, I used a piece of the red glimmer to put in behind this piece. I cut out the cardinal, and then I ran this piece through the eyelet embossing folder. And even though it's called the eyelet, I thought it worked pretty good for this particular card. It looks a little bit like snow. And then here's this nice big sentiment over top of it. I used some green glimmer that I had from last year. I'm not sure the green is available. The red is, I think, and the white is. But I wanted to put a few little sprigs. You wouldn't have to use glimmer paper for this. I just had some and I used it. And I also embossed this with all the glimmer. I stamped it in red, and then I used a clear embossing powder on top of it to make the sentiment shine as well. Inside, very much the same. And just put the glimmer paper on the inside so that it would sparkle and coordinate with the front of the card. Okay. I guess if last week was green, this one is leaning towards red. I used some more of that paper that I used last week that had green stripes. I remember I told you that on the opposite side it has red stripes, and it's kind of red with a vanilla color. So I used the very vanilla cardstock on this one, and some of the real red cardstock. I just stamped this cardinal straight onto a piece of very vanilla cardstock, and then I cut it out with one of the nesting dies. Cut out a section with the branch and the berries, and I used the one of the little circle layering framelits, and cut out this sentiment, put it on the little scalloped real red cardstock, and then I put 2 or 3 of the little glimmer dots on it that, you know, just for a little extra touch. And the inside is, like I said, pretty much the same on all of these. All right, this comes from the Bright Gleaming DSP set. I hope you can see how pretty this is. It's got kind of a copper color onto the mossy meadow green. And I put a piece of copper foil in behind this one. I'm trying to angle it a little bit, maybe so that you can see a little bit better. Sometimes I tend to get up too close to the camera thinking that I'm helping, and I'm not. This has got some red rhinestones that I put on this piece of foil, the copper foil branch. I put those on for the berries. So that is a different touch. And on the inside, I just used the mossy meadow green and a piece of the copper foil at the bottom and stamped it in red. So that one is a little bit different. And this was one I tried by just using the copper foil and putting the mossy meadow green in behind it. I don't know if I like this one. I think probably the design maybe sets off the bird a little bit better, and you might want to put something a little lighter color in behind this than the mossy green. But I thought I would show you what it looks like. Sometimes you just have to try, and if it's not exactly what you want, you go back and you adjust it on the next one. And this one is angled a little bit different, so you can see what that would look like. So those are the cards for this week. And like I said, this is the one that we're going to be making today. And I've got my trusty little bag here. But today I thought I would show you how to color this bird. It's nothing really difficult about it. It's just has to be done. I'll put it that way. I did go ahead and finish the inside of this one. So this cardstock is the very vanilla, and it is 8.5 inches and 5.5 inches. But this time, I mean, even though it's scored at 4 1/4, it's turned in a horizontal fashion instead of the usual card looking like this. So this is the little one that I stamped. I hope you can see that. So this one's got a stamp. This one has a cutout. So it's just a matter of personal preference. You can see which one you would prefer. But this inside, as usual, is just a little bit of stamping and layering. So I went ahead and got that out of the way so that you wouldn't have to bear with me trying to put that together. And I've got a piece of garden green. This one is 4 by 5 1/4, as is the one for the inside. So there's 2 pieces of that you will need for this cardstock. This is 3 3/4 by 5 to layer onto the garden green for the outside. And the one on the inside, the very vanilla that goes onto the garden green, is also 3 3/4 by 5. It's the same size. You may see a trend here. I like borders around things. And I went ahead and cut out the 2 little, I stamped the sentiment and cut it out with one of the little circular dies and the little scalloped edge, so you get that layering look and it sets it off. So we're going to color these. I'm going to use watercolor markers for these, and the reason I'm using watercolor is I tried some with the blends, and I think that the color is more brilliant with the watercolor. That's what I found anyway. I like the one that was done with this better. The blends do tend to blend better than watercolor, but I thought the birds turned out well anyway. I've also got a garden green. I've got a black, a basic black, and I've got the Grapefruit Grove that I use for the beak. So I guess I've already colored in the beak. And I stamped this in the Memento Black. And as you'll notice, this one is stamped fairly dark. And I also took this basic black and went around the eye and kind of filled this in a little bit, just to make that area of the bird stand out more. It doesn't always look as intense around the eye and what have you just from stamping. I thought it helped to go over it some with this. So what we're going to do is we're going to color this and the branch. And I'm going to use this tip. You'll see me use the finer tip for the berries. But you just take your time and start wherever you want to. And I tried to make just kind of straight streaks. I don't know how you would describe it. Instead of going round and round, I just made back and forth strokes. Maybe would be the better way to say that. Just make sure that you get colored up to and over some of the black area. This is left a little bit white there, so we're going to add a little red there. And it's amazing how fast you can really color this bird. It won't take but just a second here to get this done. And as you see, I'm kind of coming down, making strokes like this. But it is not hard to do. You don't have to be intimidated by it. I did kind of try to follow around that edge of the breast part. Like I said, just kind of back and forth and not so much going around. The die will cut this out with kind of an edging around it. You will see that in my cards, I wasn't really bowled over with the edging. It's just a personal preference of mine. Nothing wrong with it. So I did a little fussy cutting on mine. But as you can see, and then as you go back, just kind of, if you see something a little lighter or something that needs to be blended in a little bit, that's all you do right there. Now I bobbled a little bit, and that's another reason I like to trim it close. All right, we're going to let that dry a second. I'm going to put that bird there. Then I'm going to use this edge of the little water color pens. This is real red, by the way. And I stamped this in garden green because I found out that you could go over the garden green with the red and still make it look like berries. And then you didn't have to deal with another color in the branch. You might want to put some brown on it. I don't know. It's just a matter of personal preference there again. And I did not color these little berries in solid. It seems that they look better to me, and what I have learned to leave a little white spot somewhere on them. I don't remember where I learned that it's not always best to color every little spot. And there again, it depends on what it is. Yeah, it's kind of like when the sun shines on something, there'll be a spot that's a little shinier, a little brighter. And that's kind of the effect that this gives. But I thought I would show you how I did this. There's lots of little berries here. Got to feed the birds good, you understand. Now this really is what makes it look like a Christmas card too, is these little berries, and makes you think about holly, even though this is not holly. I don't know what it's supposed to be, but that's what it makes you think of. So I'm going to show you how the die cuts these out here in a second too. It seems like it ought to be too early to be thinking about Christmas cards, but if you have several to do, you might want to get started early. Okay, now I'm going to take this green, this larger tip, and I'm not necessarily going to color every little spot. I'm just going to try to go up through there, try to hold my pen up so that I don't, run out of the lines. And then when I get down into the finer areas, I will just use the other tip. But the coloring really doesn't take long on this one. And using that watercolor is just, it makes that bird look so pretty, I think. I like cardinals anyway. From time to time, we've had them down in our barn. I used to go down and feed the goats, and I'd have a cardinal come in once in a while, and it was a treat to get to see them. We also have blue jays and things like that out here sometimes. But with tree branches and what have you, they're not all smooth and they're not all exactly the same color. And the reason that I'm not coloring these leaves is they lose their dimension when you color them solid. Or at least I think they do. I'll put it that way. All right. We get the die here. For any of your dies, if you can use or get a little piece of a magnetic sheeting, there's magnetic sheets that you can use for this. I actually saw a man talk about using a vent cover, like a heat vent or an air conditioning vent. Those pieces that come about, 12 inches by, well, about that wide. Anyway, I've found that I like, you just have to be sure and get the ones that are really have strong magnets on them. But you can cut those to fit, lay your dies down on them to for whatever size that you need, and you can actually get it to fit right in the right on the section, and then cut it, and that way you don't waste any. That's kind of a roundabout way to say what I was trying to say, but you get the idea. All right, this little electric die cutting machine that I've got, I have a magnetic plate for the old one, and I've never really tried to use it on this one. So what I do, because this one doesn't have a magnet, is I use a little bit of Post-it tape. This is the best stuff in the world to use to put on stuff that you don't want the paper damaged, but it will hold. So this is the bottom plate, and it's a little bit, bowed, and it also is, it's got some cuts in it. And I'm going to tell you something that I have learned this week, if I could find it. Okay, I have some really thin sheets cut. Now, I did not buy this cheap paper at Stampin' Up. Their paper is much better than this. And this is really thin, and you can use even a piece of notebook paper or something. But I found out, if I lay that on top, you don't have to, but I found out that as this goes through my die cutting machine, sometimes some of these grooves will show up on my image, and I don't like that. I mean, it doesn't make it look pretty at all. I'm just reaching over here, running it through one time, and it'll go right ahead and cut, and it'll make an image on the back of this thing, see? Or maybe you can see. But it just prevents your image from picking up anything that you don't want on it. That's the gist of it. You can just use something really thin, something like I guess, onion skin paper or, you know, anything like that would work. You don't want it thick because it'll alter the way that your machine cuts out your image. Now, you can see what this looks like with the edge around it. And for me, I didn't much like that. So I'm going to show you what I did to it. I cut it off, and that's what I'm going to do to this one. But before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and cut this image out for you. Well, it's not the bird, so this one. And for those of you that, you know, I keep mentioning this, that may or may not know how to get started with this sort of thing. You always put the sharp side, or I do, I'll put it that way. I guess that's all right. I put the sharp side down so it will next to the paper, so it will cut. And there's my other little piece of paper, tape. I always use my tape a couple of times if I can. I'm going to flip this over this time and use the other side of it. There we go. And your plates are going to get scarred. I have had, as you can see, I've got this blue one on the bottom so I can tell which one I'm cutting against all the time. And that's what I always put down, is the blue one. But still, the top one will pick up images, as you can see. And it hasn't been long since I changed these. And, you know, I don't want to keep buying plates all the time. So I just found out that if I was, once I started having a problem with some of those grooves or what have you showing up on my paper, just laying a thin piece of paper will take care of that problem. So, okay. We'll pull this out, lay this back, and there's the little branch ready to go on. Now, I did not fussy cut that, as you can see. Okay. I've got a little pair of scissors, and I'm going to fussy cut this cardinal out, and then we'll put everything together. And this is an image that does not take long to cut out. Now, you know, there's images that this wouldn't work on at all, and maybe you wouldn't want, and I mean, I use dies and things a lot of times where there aren't any edges like this. I mean, or, you know, that it doesn't make any difference. Let me put it that way. There we go. If I've got a little speck that's being contrary, I'll go back and clip that off. But the idea is that you just slowly cut, and you can move your image as you need to. I'm going to round this just a little bit, and you can decide whether you like the image with or without the border. If you're going to have it with the border, you want to be extremely careful when you go around coloring the body of the bird or what have you, the head. Some people are intimidated by fussy cutting. I don't think it's that big a deal personally, but, you know, maybe I'm not as hard to please as some. I don't know. Okay, now then. I'm going to cut just a little bit of this off. I'm not going to cut all of this, because when you get down around feet and things like that, it does get a little tricky. All right, what I am going to do to those feet is I'm going to take this black marker and that white edging, I'm going to make their feet a little bit bigger. And it doesn't have to be exact. All right. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the red marker. And I don't know that it makes so much difference on this particular card because I've got a white snowy background. But on some things, it would make a difference. That white edging, that where you cut the paper, I'm going to turn it up like that, and you can see that it's just coloring in. Around where you cut. And if it's on a different color or something that's not white, then you're going to want it to you're going to want to put this color on it so it'll look better. All right. So there's our bird, and I'll set it on there in a minute. Let's go ahead and glue this first sheet together. Again, this piece is 3 3/4, this glimmer paper. It's called Sparkle Glimmer Paper. Look at this. No glitter comes off. That's kind of amazing, isn't it? So if you're a person that likes shine and you don't like the glitter, this is perfect for you. Okay. And this really does sparkle. Okay. All right. Now, go ahead and put this on. And I think for this one I might put it down a little bit further. If you love Christmas and getting into the spirit of feeling the Christmas spirit and doing a lot of these kinds of things, this might be something you really enjoy doing. I always enjoy making Christmas cards. Last year was the very first year that I made every card that I sent. And I think I probably sent out 100 plus, not really sure. So it took a little while to do them. But when you can make several that are about the same, then you find that it goes faster. I'll put it that way. Okay. Now the one thing about the glitter paper is once you get the glue on it, you really do need to press it down because it doesn't stick to it quite as well as regular cardstock. So, and then we're going to think about how we're going to, I think that'll probably work good for that bird. All right. And I'm going to use my tweezers there again. Okay. Now then, I'm going to turn it a little bit so I can kind of see where I'm placing him. Because you don't want him sitting up mid-air. You want him having that branch to support him in some form or fashion. And what I did with the other one, and I'm going to do it with this one too, is when I got the feet on, that edge around the toes and things, I'm going to color that in green, and that will make it look like the bird is sitting on that branch a little bit better. And it also takes up that white, so I just think that helps the appearance of the card. I might add a little bit there. Sometimes you can. Okay. you will find that sometimes you'll see things and you just kind of want to go back and you want to add a little bit more, or you want to touch it up a little bit. You know, whatever you want to do to it to give it the appearance that you want it to have. Okay, it's a snowy day for the Cardinal. All right, this is the sentiment again that came from that Rustic Retreat set, Sending Warm Christmas Wishes. Put a little bit of glue on this. Try to stay away from the edges as much as you can, because once you put the pressure on to glue it to the next piece, it will gush out a little bit if you're not real careful. Don't you like my terminology, my correct English, gushing? Well, if you're prim and proper, I'm afraid I might not be your gal for getting everything said just right. Sometimes I think my brain just goes on pause and I sit there waiting until it comes around. All right, on this, I'm going to use one of these Glimmer Dots. I wasn't sure that it needed a lot, but I thought down on this side it's a little bit empty. So I'm going to take one of the larger ones. Okay, it's going to stick to my finger that way maybe. I'm going to put it right underneath, sort of as an accent. And I think that's enough. I think if you put any more than that on it, it might look a little gawky. So, if you like glitter though more than that, and you think it looks better the other way, fix it the way you think it looks best. All right, this one, I think we'll go ahead and glue this together before I put that on, but I'm going to use some dimensionals to do that. It's just that sometimes when you get an extra layer, you know, if you have to bend the card a little bit or something, it may not be the best for your images that you're got on the front. And something else I do when I mail these cards, if I've got glitter dots or, you know, something that's elevated, if I put this on without the little glimmer dot, I probably wouldn't necessarily do this. I think the card would be flat enough. But sometimes I use like I said, a piece of cheap cardstock that just acts as a padding to protect the front of your card. Okay. Hope I didn't. No, okay, we're good. I thought, oh, please tell me I didn't forget to look and put it on upside down. There's nothing that makes you sicker than to get right finished to your card, get right finished making your card, and then you realize that you have glued it on upside down. Not a smart thing to do. All right, let's put a few of these on the back, and we're about done. You know, this would make a really nice activity with a group of friends. You know, sometimes you look at each other and you're not sure what you've got to talk about. But if you've got a little project going on, then, you know, it's a good group activity. I think I'm going to do some of this with my daughter-in-laws this year, maybe. If everybody gets together at Christmas, I'm not sure yet how that's going to happen. All right. You can put it up here, you can put it down here. I think I'm going to make it look kind of like the other one. I'm going to come in just a little bit. Okay. All right. Now then, as you know, I put the branch down a little lower on this one. So it's just a matter of personal preference. I just thought I'd see how it looked that way. So there's the card. Even with the extra coloring and cutting out today, it didn't take that long. And that's the inside. This one has the cutout. This one has a stamp. So It's a matter of what you like. All right, folks. Thank you for joining me. I will remind you one more time that the catalog to order all these products in are coming. It's going to be out on September the 4th, and that's not really far away now. So the Cardinal set, the Toile, Tiding, DSP, all the striped paper, and the other paper that was from the Bright Gleaming set, the one with the holly and what have you on the Mossy Meta color. All those will be available. Like I said, there's lots of other things in there too. And just as soon as I can, I will put a catalog up for you to look at on my website. You can look under my blog and you'll see a place. They're kind of picky about when we can open the catalog. I mean, I know some people have already got catalogs, but they only want us to show certain parts until September the 4th. So you got to abide by the rules. Anyway, you folks have a nice week. The good Lord willing, I'll be back in about a week and I'll have another video for you. Thank you for joining me. The good Lord bless and keep you and your family. Thanks again. Bye-bye.